Welcome to another video as part of the Pavilion video series, a competitive overview. I am Kostas Apopoulos, the Chief Field Technology Officer and Worldwide Vice President of Business Development for Pavilion Data. This video is going to showcase the various competitors to Pavilion via their publicly available information. We'll look at dimensions of capacity, dimensions of performance, and dimensions of competitive features. And again, all this information is gleaned from the competitors' websites. So the first lens we'll look at this competitive landscape is through the lens of matching Pavilion's capacity. So if we look at this from a block, file, and object, we have to compare in each one of the categories because it depends. You'll also notice in here that many of the vendors have to have different platforms for each one of the different types of storage. So this is a high level. We'll drill into this in a little bit, but at a high level, in Pavilion's 4 rack units and 2.2 petabytes capacity, if we picked 4 of the competitors out there from block, it would take 4.5 times the rack unit for a Pure Storage, 3 times the rack unit for NetApp, 3 times the rack unit for Dell EMC PowerStore, and 3 times the rack units for IBM. If you look at the dimension of file, our 4 rack units 2.2, 3 times the rack units for Pure Storage, 3 times for NetApp, 3 times for Dell EMC PowerScale, and 4 times for VAST. As we look at through an object lens, again, our 4 rack units and 2.2, 3 rack units FlashBlade, 3 rack units NetApp, 3 rack units PowerScale, and 4 rack units VAST. Now let's change that lens to the competition to looking to match Pavilion's performance. Pavilion's 20 million IOPS in block and 9 million IOPS in write for block in those 4 rack units. The equivalent for Pure Storage would be 60 times Pavilion's rack units. NetApp, 16 times Pavilion's rack units. Dell EMC with PowerStore, 13 times the rack units. IBM, 2.5 times the rack units. If you put the dimension of file in our performance of 78 gigabytes a second read, 56 gigabytes a second write, it would take 3 times the rack units for NetApp, 2.5 for Dell PowerScale, and 2 for VAST, and 5 for FlashBlade. The lens on object, 52 for read, 28 for write, and those 4 rack units would take 3x the rack units for FlashBlade, 3x the rack units for NetApp, 3x the rack units for PowerScale, 2x the rack units for that competitive landscape. And where we really stand out in the pack is all those that have the need for speed, all those applications. So our performance, our density, our scalability, our flexibility for all these different types of workload is what makes us unique and makes us that flexible, high-performance storage. So now let's look at this Pavilion, the most flexible, high-performance storage platform, right? Whether that's block, whether that's file, whether that's object, or whether that is us delivering for an external file system like a SpectrumScale, Lustre, or BGFS. So let's take an audit out there about the competition. Let's figure out all the ones that, what platforms, what vendors are used for each one of these solutions. So if we picked VAST, they play in the object and the file. Cumulo, object in the file. Weka, object in the file. Pure plays in all 4 categories, but you have to have FlashArray for block, FlashBlade for file and object, and if they were to be an external file system behind SpectrumScale, would be again FlashArray as an example. Dell EMC requires different platform for block, different platform for file and object. NetApp, same platform for all 4. IBM requires flash system for block, flash system for an external file system, or ESS for a high-performance file system, or IBM Cloud Storage for object. Quantum, ActiveScale, and StoreNext. DDN, different platforms, SFA versus Exascaler versus their WAF. So which vendor is the most flexible? Let's look at that dimension. So let's start with block. Which vendors support only file? Nobody. Which vendors support file and object only? Well, that'd be VAST, Cumulo, and Weka. So which vendors support block, file, and object? Well, that's not VAST, that's not Cumulo, that's not Weka. It's these platforms, these vendors. But you'll notice every vendor has different platforms. Next question, which vendors support block, file, and object all on the same platform? Well, that comes down to Pavilion and NetApp. So Pavilion, the most flexible, performance-dense platform on the market, all at market competitive pricing. Now let's look at the competition and compare that, kind of some matrices of major functionalities and capabilities. So how do we compare to the competition? Well, it depends. This table will show you who supports block, file, or object. Green and a yes obviously means you support it. The red means it's not supported. Gives you a chart that says how many rack units it takes to deliver that, what is their max capacity, and whether they support Ethernet, InfiniBand, Fiber Channel, or whatever it happens to be. I'm not going to read the chart. I'm going to pause here for a little bit. You can digest it or pause the video. Now let's look at it in the context of performance. I'm going to pause so you can take a minute to digest the slide. And again, you can pause the video for more time. Look at the lens of what host protocols each vendor supports. Again, I will pause, take a look at the video, pause it yourself if you want to have more time. Now look at the lens of who supports some other really capabilities that are file capabilities. Again, green means you support it. The red means that you do not support it. Again, I'll pause, take a look at it. Pause your video if you want more time. The lens of other block capabilities. Again, I'll pause so you can have a chance to digest, or pause the video if you want more time. Same lens of more object capabilities. Pavilion has yellow and a few of those characteristics, as those are items that are inside our platform that we just have not enabled the capability to deliver, that will be on the roadmap in the future. Again, pausing to take a look. If you need more time, pause the video. This next section drills down into more detailed competitors for each one of the file, block, and object, which I shared earlier in the video in more of a summary format. Here's a summary as we look for each one of the competitors based upon a comparison to Pavilion. On capacity per rack unit, we'll look at here is Pavilion relative to many competitors. Again, I'll pause for you to digest. This is to match Pavilion's throughput from a file perspective. Again, many competitors. Pause for you to review and pause the video if you want more time. So remember, what can you do with all that file performance, right? Well, if you look in that GPU direct storage arena, we did GPU direct testing. Pavilion was 110% the read performance of VAST, almost 400% the write, at 9% the latency, and 40% the rack units. The next slide is Weka, 117% the read, 169% the write, at 73% the latency, at 67% the write. Or you can have an environment where you need high-speed ingest, doing data conversion, and high-speed processing, high-speed analysis, enables data in place workflow. We look at this file competitive analysis by grouping by competitor. Block storage to match our performance, to match our capacity. I'll pause on each one of these slides and you can review or pause the video. If we look at it from a match Pavilion's IOPS, pretty big stacks there, 60 times the rack units to deliver what Pure can deliver relative to one of our Pavilion boxes. Pretty impressive in the block area. What can you do with all that performance in block? Well, that was an example of Pure where a very high performance VMware environment was required. To deliver the performance with low latency with the IOPS, it took 16 Pure flash storage arrays to deliver what Pavilion can do 1.5 of our arrays. We were 10 times faster, 6 times smaller, and 20 times less costly. Competitive analysis through some charts. Thank you for watching this video as part of the Pavilion video series. If you want to learn more about this topic or others, check out our other videos at www.pavilion.io. You can also reach out to us via email at info@pavilion.io, or you can always call us on the phone. We'd love to talk to you about how Pavilion can help you solve some of your most challenging storage-related problems and help you deliver incredible business outcomes to your customers. Thank you.